Oh, it's nothing but rain. All the snow's gone. That quickly. Good afternoon, everybody. So, today we have my Japanese larch, or Larch Campari, I don't know how to say it. Got one of those. I don't want to slide the pot around too much because scratch up the table. I'll give you a 360 like this. So let's get to work. As you can see, all the needles are falling off. About that time, a little bit of a brisk wind and it'll come off. So this one actually sits on my bench, and because of that, excuse me, because it sits on the bench, it's by like a wall, usually where the wind comes from, so it doesn't really get much wind to it, so that's why these needles are still on. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes taking off the old needles so we can see the structure, and then this video is going to be a bit of cleanup, cleaning up the soil a little bit. Some of the trunk has a bit of moss on it. Cleaning up the needles, cleaning up old cuts, and then we're going to look to see what kind of buds we want for springtime. Maybe a bit of wire. It's important when removing needles that we're only removing the ones that we know are going to fall off. If I get any resistance, like that one there, where I can actually move the branch with it, I'm not going to take it off. You can destroy buds and, you know. But in terms of light and stuff, you know, just to make sure the branches are getting enough light. You know, light isn't great at this time of year. So probably a month left of winter before spring starts kicking in. And actually, this tree last year pushed quite early, so that's why I don't mind doing the work early. I know it's healthy, I know it's strong. As you can probably tell, there's a lot of needles and stuff that obviously fallen onto the tree, and obviously all around here as well. So this is kind of part of the reason why I like to clean up trees before I work on them, especially larch and stuff. You know, there's a spider in this somewhere, or there has been, at least on the bench. All the cobwebs kind of, you know, all the needles and stuff, it's harder to see the clear image of the tree. So I'm going to spend some time cleaning up this. I'll probably fast forward this bit and then we will actually get to some work on it. So if you're new to this kind of stuff, bonsai in general, or you know, this kind of work, you might be thinking, oh, it's a bit anal to go around removing every last needle you can, especially from the soil. I mean, most of the reason is to stop pests, so decaying matter is going to attract pests, and going into spring I'd rather not have that. I usually always get an aphid problem. I think mainly because I don't use pesticides. I think the only thing I've ever used is a fungicide, and that's my Scots pine. That's because I couldn't find any other natural alternative, but I do try and keep it as natural as possible, and I don't want to harm either the tree or, you know, the good animals that are living in it, or mycorrhiza, any of that good stuff. Sometimes the problem is when you want to kill something, you end up killing everything. I'm not after that. Also, it gives me a chance to go around and weed. Now, this one actually hasn't got many weeds in it. It's got some juniper foliage in it for some reason. There's not many weeds. There's some moss. There's also some like, algae, I suppose you'd call it. Obviously, where I am in the UK, it is wet, wet, wet. That's not a reference to the song either. Or the band. Okay, that's most of the needles gone. I'm probably not going to get every single needle. They're pesky little ones. There's also probably some that are already decaying as well. As you might have seen, obviously I removed the rocks, so these rocks were just sitting on the soil. It's not like a root over rock composition or anything. I originally done that to actually keep the tree in place when I repotted it last year. Let's just have a quick tidy up here. Last bit before we move on to actually styling. It's just quite a bit of moss here at the base. I'll try and tease that away. So you can use like a toothbrush, and people do use chemicals sometimes as well. Is it apple cider vinegar, maybe? I don't have any of that. So all I do is I just kind of brush it away. I'll probably leave it like that now for winter. I can always come back. Oh look, it's our spider friend. He's the one who's holding on to all the needles. So styling wise, I bought this tree off of eBay. I can't remember exactly when, but I know I've already got a video of a repot, so I'll put that up just now as a little clip. The tree was very different when I bought it. It was quite a lot taller. It was probably, not that you can see my hand there, but it's probably just about 3 or 4 inches taller than what it was. And it had no taper, and the taper is still a bit of an issue. It's very feminine in the way that, you know, in bonsai, femininity is very subtle movement, and quite a feminine line, as in it's quite, there's no bold taper basically. Like when you talk about masculinity, you're talking about a big chunky base, and the taper kind of goes quickly. So really, like the base would be about this big, and it'd go up to this point. That'd be quite a masculine tree because it'd take up most of the pot kind of thing. But a feminine kind of movement is kind of, yeah, how this tree is going. I sort of formed a new apex up the top, and obviously on most trees the apex is obviously where it's going to grow strongest. I've got some coarse growth coming in with some of these branches. I'm going to have to look to see what I can do about them. That's a bit of a weird one there. It's like a little fork right in your face. And I've got advantageous buds all over these branches, so I mean it's good, it's healthy, right? I like this branch here, although I think it's now getting a bit too far out of whack for the scale of the tree. It's also getting quite coarse as well. So where I've only repotted this last year, the roots are still kind of going into the container. It's this first bonsai pot. The root ball wasn't refined at all, so it's going to keep on pushing coarse growth until I can get that root ball to a good place. And then, you know, the way to think about it is that the finer the roots that you grow, the finer the branches. That's kind of the way that I understand it anyway. So yeah, the next part I'm just going to pick some buds. Obviously while thinking about where I'm going to wire it now. If I didn't have a clue how I was going to style this tree, or where I thought it was already going. You know, I've already got quite a good branch structure going on. You've got this branch here, this branch coming out from the front. This one is another side kind of back branch. This one is actually a back branch, and then I've got my apex at the top. If I didn't have that already in place, then I'd be looking to wire first and then cut back afterwards, just so I know, you know, the buds that I need are actually in the right place. But for me, I've been doing this for a little while now, so I can kind of, you get pretty good at predicting how things are going to go with styling and where you're going to put things. You know the tree, you know yourself as well. So I always start from the bottom of the tree. I go bottom to the top, and there are some old cuts on this and gin that I do need to work on, but I thought I'd show you branch work first. So I always start on the lowest branch, work way up the tree. It's just the easiest way to do it for me. As you can see, we have got, you know, quite a few branches here. It is starting to, so this is obviously the main branch. There's a few branches coming off it, which would be your secondaries. And then we have actually got some tertiaries going on as well, which is quite nice to see. This branch is ramifying quite well. Thickness of it wise, it isn't great. It could be better. The base of the branch could be thicker and then tapering in. So I probably will be looking to cut back to some interior buds here and losing some of this stuff on the edge, which is a shame because I've already started ramifying it, but there we go. There's a couple of upward growing branches, and there's some that I'm actually going to keep, and I'll show you that reason why. So as you can see, there's a branch back here. There is actually a bud on top of it as well, I believe, but I'm going to have to get rid of that bud. Now, usually you cut this branch off because it's kind of growing out at a stupid angle. Now, the reason why I'm not going to do that is because I actually want to drop this branch down anyway. And when I drop this branch down, you'll see that kind of gets more and more horizontal with the actual tree itself. And then with a little more wire, I can bring it down. So I'm looking for layered branching here on this branch specifically. I kind of like the layered branch look rather than just one branch that comes out and that's a pad. I like to have a little pad on top sometimes. I've done it with my Chinese elm as well. So I will actually be leaving this one on for now. Seeing if I can use that. In terms of the other branches, obviously they've all started kind of growing up at the end, which isn't a big problem. But this is kind of growing as an alpine kind of tree. So I'm looking for where I can start giving some more taper. Now, there's a bud back here with this one. The only problem is there's already a branch on the right, on the back side, which I don't know if I want to keep. So I don't. So I will be removing buds that I don't want as well, because there's no point in spring of it pushing out of these places, and I don't want them. This is too close in. Definitely remove that one. Same as that one there. And we'll be going back through and cleaning up these cuts as best as possible. Our spider friend is back. He's dropped into the video to say hello. Now this branch I don't mind. And there is a bud on this side, so I'm going to cut back to that. Leaving that one well alone on top for a minute. Come on the back side for this branch. I don't believe I've got a bud underneath. I've got another one coming from this section. Decisions. I could cut it all the way back and get that bud to grow. There is a bud on the outside there. I'm going to cut back to that one. For now, I'm going to remove this one. Back to the front. There's going to be a lot of moving around on this. I'll try and keep it central as well. So I believe that's a dead stub from what I cut back last time. I'm getting on that, lovely. There's a bud growing back towards the tree, which I'm not after. And then there's a little one on top here, which I'm going to go back to that. I'm just leaving little stubs. I don't want to risk the dye back, to be honest. And I can always come back on the next one and cut them back properly. This one, it is growing up a little bit. I don't want it going too high, and there are buds back there, so I'm going to cut back to them buds. And then that'll probably, in the future, need a bit of wire to come back down. This one's growing too far down, although I am looking to cut this branch right back anyway. I don't know if I have any buds closer to it. I think I'll cut back to these 2 buds for now. Cut that one back to there. There's a little dead stub in here. See if I can get in there. There's buds at the base of that. That one's a dead stub. And then I've got a little bud at the base of that one as well. So that's that one kind of minorly cleaned up. There is a bud on top there I don't like. Get rid of that one. And then we should be able to bring the branch down. Then this can come down a little as well. And then that is kind of horizontal with the tree. Then this one's more of a drooping branch. Now I've already got the width. So now I've already got my width of my, I suppose you could call it a defining branch, right? It's the first branch. It'll be my defining branch. Once the wire's down, obviously it comes a little bit tighter. This kind of brings it more in scale. But because of this, I now have to work with every other branch lengthwise and make it make sense with this. So this branch above, let's say, will have to come all the way back. And again, we're looking for a kind of off-center conical form. Let me zoom you all the way out for that again. So an off-center kind of conical form. So this side I'm looking to make quite flat. And this side, a bit of push outside. So we're kind of looking like a triangle, more like that shape. Keeping in mind this branch. So this is a very bit of coarse growth. This is all put on this year. I kind of let the tree grow out because of obviously the repot last year. I think I did cut this back in summer maybe. Just because it was growing wildly. But that's why we're back here now. So I have got some really big buds and some really small buds going on over here. I'll bring the tree in a bit closer. So again, I've got buds on top. Not really after those. There's ones on the bottom growing down. I think that's an old knuckle. Bit of dead growth there. And obviously you can twist and wire these. So it isn't too much of an issue with that. Now I don't like that these 2 branches are growing side by side. I need to keep this one for the length really. This one's growing too far back. So I'm going to have to remove this one. And shorten this one right back. Dead stub at the end. Then I think I could use this one. This little bud here. And if I wire that and twist it a little bit, we should be okay there. So that branch is kind of more in line now. That's gone quite short, but that's where the angle is going to be at. It's going to be quite a sharp angle here. This one's more of a slight angle on this side. In terms of this branch, I'm not too amazed by it. I don't know whether I should be cutting this one off completely. It's very coarse. See what I'll do, I'll cut it back to this. There's a bud just there. I'm going to cut that one back to there, take some strength out of it. Now this one's fine, I don't mind this. It's cut off this end here. Again, with a little twist, we can probably sort most of these branches out. If I do twist that, I can get rid of most of that length there. And if I've done that, that does mean that this bud is then growing into the tree, so we don't want that. Okay, that should be fine for wiring. Back branch wires, so this is more like a filler, and to be honest, I do need one lower down. I'm hoping at some point I do get a little back bud down here, because the tree is very bare down this side. I'm going to be spinning around for the back branch, so This is quite a well ramified branch, it's going quite well. I think I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit. Now I like to actually sort my back branches out from the front, because then you can actually see what you're doing in terms of size, if they're going the way you want them to. That could be wide, probably going to be alright there. It also gives some shape to this side. I've got some internal buds on the back side there. I'm just going to knock back to them, just to keep ramifying. And again, that one there. By the time that's wide out into position, that should be good. This one up here. So getting into the apex, I'm going to have to be a bit more brutal. Just because I know how much this tree pushes. I've got some big terminal buds up here. I'm going to come right back to here. There's a little bud there, so hopefully that'll push out. This one's okay. So this was my original apex idea, and then this one's going to push that behind it. Now I like to work with the tree, right, and it's picked this branch to be the strongest on the tree, so I'm going to work with it. This bit at the back will kind of flatten out a little bit. There's a little dead stub in here. A little bud there. Don't think I've got any other buds there. Just going to knock last year's growth off of that. So I just thought I'd bring you up a little bit just so you can see the whole apex. I'm going to have to angle the tree a bit so you can actually see how it's looking. But yeah, this is where we're at right now. So just kind of shorten a lot of branches back. Actually, I do want to shorten this one back. So the bud there. Okay. Tried to sort out some issues there. I'm going to be wiring this, it looks like. I like to wire kind of winter time, just so the branches have a chance to set before spring sets in. You know, larch, especially with how much this is pushing the coarse growth it's got, you can easily damage branches. Wire can cut in, so I like to usually wire kind of autumn. I don't mind wiring in the summer sometimes, but you just got to watch that second push, especially for deciduous trees. You know, Chinese elm, stuff like that, they like to push 3-4 times a year sometimes, so yeah, I like to wire in them kind of times, because that's when the tree is kind of not pushing too hard and the growth isn't uncontrollable, let's say. What I'm going to do before I do that, I'm going to go and tidy up some old cuts, because they're looking a bit ugly. So down on this side, I've actually got these 2 gins here, which I started last time. Now I haven't actually lime sulphur them. I just removed the bark at the time. They do need some lime sulphur on them. So a lot of these kind of old cuts down here, some of them were made by me, some of them weren't. But I don't actually mind some of them, because they give it a little bit of character, you know, there's little bulges, and kind of gives you the idea of a older looking tree. Now obviously the 2 gins I had are actually around the back. You can't really see them anyway, so I'll leave them be for now. My actual hope is one day that I can get a back budding branch somewhere around this region on this side, and I can gin that. I think that'll bring the tree into, give it a bit more age. Now obviously my main issue with this tree is a taper. I'm not a big fan of just how straight this is. I've only really got a couple of options, right? So at some point, taking it out of this pot, putting it back into a growing container, letting a leader run loose, and trying to thicken this trunk up, like the whole trunk, as it goes. Or putting it in the ground, but I can't put it in the ground around here because I don't have my own space. I am hoping this year to get an allotment of some type, where I can actually ground grow some trees, because I find that my biggest issue is trying to get that trunk thickness, because I'm only got a small space. I'm always growing in containers. That does hold trees back quite a lot. So onto the wiring. Okay, so time for some wire. Just have a little break. You got to remember to take breaks in this kind of work as well, especially if it's going on for a while. I use this little carry case for wire. I do actually need to buy some more wire at some point. Now I do actually also have a box of loads of like old cut stuff that I'll take off. I'd like to try and reuse it. I'm not one of those that's just binning old wire for the sake of it. Obviously, if it's gone, you know, sometimes the what do you call it, the coating kind of goes, or you know, you can overbend the wire as well. Like you bend it so many times it ends up breaking or just becoming weak. I'd like to do that as well. So really, I mean, most people use like copper wire for these kind of trees. I'm not sure just how much I'm going to need for that. There's quite a big bend. I might have to go for a thicker gauge there. Quite a thick branch. I don't want to go too thick. The general idea is, I think I've said this 100 times probably, but the general idea is wherever the thickness of the branch is, you go with half of that. So I'd say it's probably about that gauge there for this branch. The issue is I don't really have another branch that needs that kind of gauge, but I will do a 2-branch method up to this one probably. Just getting the length roughly right. I can cut that off. Now, I don't know if you can see already in this video, this tree isn't really that secure. I'm not sure quite what's happened there. Either I've snapped the wire or something's happened. It's healthy, so it's fine. It is growing, but I'm just going to have to be really careful about how I wire this, especially with a thicker wire, because it's going to move the tree a lot, which I don't really want. So I was about to make a mistake. If anyone spotted that, I want to move this branch down. So what I should be doing is coming over the top of the shoulder. So again, holding the wire and the branch with one hand and moving the wire with the other. Now, because this tree isn't that stable, what I can do is before I carry it out to the end of the branch, if I can, without knocking any buds, is then take this up the tree and kind of secure that branch then to the tree itself. We're a bit more stable with the wiring. I don't really need to carry this out all the way because I'm just looking to move the first bit of the branch the most. But I will carry it out to about there. Naughty stuff again. As I said in the previous video, obviously the wire should be as tight as possible, but sometimes your issue is that you've got lots of bobbly bits on the tree like I have on this one, and it isn't always possible to get super tight, but there are really no gaps. It isn't like I'm in craters for gaps and stuff. Now, as I say, this wire is a bit too thick for this branch, so I don't really need that much. It's more just like an anchor for the other one. I will come back in and wire this branch out with a thinner gauge. I just don't want to go too far and end up snapping that branch off. Here we go, with a bend in. So the idea of coming over the shoulder is that when I bend down, it's supported on the top by that piece of wire there. If I come underneath, there's going to be a big gap there, and usually if it's going to snap, it will snap where the gaps are. Larch is usually quite flexible anyway, so it's not a big problem for this species most of the time. And that is a general idea. Let me just see that on camera. I have to move the camera out of the way a little bit. So what I've done there is try to move it around a little bit as well, and just down a little bit. Again, this is a primary branch, so primary branches tend to not really need too much drastic movement. You can get the drastic movement out the tertiary, like secondary and tertiary branches, in time. But again, this is, it's going to be a show-in size tree. Nothing crazy, right? The movement on the tree is quite feminine. It's quite subtle. Therefore, the branches should be quite subtle in the way that they are. Of course, if this trunk was all bent round, loopy, then you can do whatever you want with branches, kind of thing. But yeah. So what I'll then do is, so this branch is now kind of at the right thing. There is a bud underneath. I'm going to wait for that bud to push there, and then it's going to come back out. You can get your movement just by like this branch up here. It's coming straight out there. It's a straight part of the branch there, but then obviously I'll cut back to the side bit. And you already get that kind of, you don't have to wire around too much. That's part of the clip and grow method, I guess. No, I don't like this branch up here. Sorry, I'm going to get rid of that. So that is growing back in towards the tree, and I don't like it. I've already got 3 or 4 different buds around it. So then my question then would be, do I bring this in? If I do that, that makes them the new leader. Decisions. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut back to this bud here. There's a bud on that side. I'll cut back to it just for safety. I've got a bud on that side, which can push out that way, and the apex can come down. That'd be nice. Right, little adjustments as we go on. So what I can now do is, I can now wire these 2 together to actually put some movement into this and move this where I want it, because then that'll leave this one and the leader together. Works out perfect. Not that I meant it to. The idea is that you're following the shape of this branch here, your main branch. Obviously, as you go up the tree, the branches should kind of level out, and eventually the apex grows upwards. Not every single branch is going to be diving down, especially if this was a big tree in nature. These would be the newer branches, and these wouldn't have been weighed down by the snow load so much, so these wouldn't be so low down compared to this one here, which is one of the oldest. And then you've got to think of light as well. And this is the reason why we get the conical shape on trees, is because obviously the bottom branches have to grow out longer to get the light. The sun will be beaming down from the top. If this branch is longer than this branch, let's say, then this would completely cover that out, and then this one will eventually die back. That is how branches die as well on trees. Then we move on to the back branch and the leader. Again, just a rough idea. You can always I like to overcut wire, and you can always clip off the little end bits. It's not a big deal. If you go over a little bit. And the apex should always be coming towards you. Should be an inviting tree. That's the way they put it, and that's more for aesthetics than just your eye. Your branches should kind of be like it should be this kind of view, right? And it should be in the way that this branch kind of wants to pull you in, this branch as well. The apex, like the trunk can do whatever it really wants, but it's always nicer when it goes away and then comes back to you. It's just more inviting to the tree. Invites your eye, let's say. So that is the end of the video. That's this larch all cleaned up, wired out mainly for spring growth. I'm not too sure what I want to do with this branch still. I might just see how it goes and end up maybe lopping that off. It's a bit too early on the branch for that branch there, and it's very coarse, but we'll see. You don't always have to make decisions on the spot. And as I've said before as well, some of these trees, when I'm styling them, some of them quite naturally have branched in a good place, and you know, if for example, the oak one, like the miniature oak that I've done out of what was that? It was a cypress. It was a Hanoki cypress I've got, which I made like an oak tree kind of form from. That had good branch, and most of the stuff was already there, and I barely had to even wire that. You know, sometimes you do find a little gem that you just like, oh, do you know what? That one looks naturalistic already. So yeah, there are some videos where trees might look, well, I wouldn't say finished, but the styling comes very easy, let's say. There's other videos which, or most trees, I'd say probably 70-80%, where I'm doing things for the future. It's not like this is a finished tree, right? This isn't like me going, wow, let's go and put this in a big show. But it's continuous improvement, and every time you touch your trees, you should be improving on them in some way, whether that be taper, shape, even restyling sometimes. You know, as trees grow, you tend to see different things in them, or you want different things out of them especially. So yeah, that's the general idea of it. Just constant pruning, constant wiring, and making a better tree. And this is how this one's looking for now. So I'll give you a little final spin around, and I'm actually going to try something new at the end of this video.